Imagine waking up in a home that not only knows your every need, but also adapts to the environment, conserves energy, and even grows its own food. Now, this all sounds like a wacky George Jetson cartoon, but what if it's not? What if things are about to change, and change big? In today's video, I'll be talking about the upcoming shifts in the housing market over the next decade, and what's likely going to happen with supply, demand, interest rates, and most importantly, housing prices. And actually, the most important thing to cover is you smashing that like button because it helps this channel so much and it lets me continue bringing wealth and knowledge to all of you. Because with what's coming over the next 10 years, if you're not on top of it when it comes to economic and socio-economic trends, well, you're going to be left in the dust and there's truly going to be a transfer of wealth from the middle class to the rich. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to cover is supply. This is level 1 when it comes to economics. And right now we're in an enormous supply shortage, which is causing high housing prices. Now, when it comes to supply, really the only thing and the best thing we can do is just simply build more houses. But the reality is the majority of tradesmen, over half, are boomers, and boomers are retiring. Let's be real. They're done framing houses and laying tile floors on their old broken knees. They're done with that kind of work. Now, that's always been the case. The older you get, you kind of drop out of doing this manual labor and then you back off to a supervisor position or something. But we're not seeing that transfer of knowledge like previous generations. See, millennials and Gen Zs aren't signing up for the trades left, right, and center. They'd rather work in cushy, air-conditioned offices working for Google and Facebook. So there's this giant trend happening that no one's really talking about, although we all know it's there, and that is tradesmen are retiring like crazy and we're not filling those spots. So at a time right now when we need to build, millennials and Gen Zs don't want to get their hands rough, and boomers are kind of done taking the load and working super hard 60-hour weeks like they did in the 70s and 80s. Now, on the demand side, millennials and Gen Zs still want to buy a house, especially millennials. We're at the ages, 31, 32, 35, 36. That's the age where most people kind of want to get their shit together and start owning a house. They're having babies. They want the nice house with the yard and the fence, the golden retriever dog. That's the life that they want, and millennials are waking up to that. Even though we led on for all these years that we just wanted to travel the world and live in Bali and drink coffee and not have kids, well, that's not what's happening. Millennials are falling into traditional norms pretty rapidly, which is very surprising. I talk about this all the time on my channel. The socioeconomic trends of millennials are pretty funny because we were the most and biggest progressive generation in a long time. Super woke, super left, but now that we're getting beat up by the economy, we're working jobs we really don't like, millennials are becoming a little more conservative than I ever thought. And with conservatism, normally comes with traditional values, which is getting married, owning a home, staying put, growing roots. Millennials want those things, but millennials also aren't working to be building the houses that we desperately need. And I always talk about this, but the millennial generation is an enormous generation, the biggest generation in a long time. Now, we had the baby boomers, and they were called the boomers for the reason, because there was a giant baby boom. So they were an enormous generation. Then they had a bunch of kids. Our generation is even bigger. So we have all these people, millennials and Gen Zs and Gen X and some boomers looking to buy houses, and there are none. Now, we already spoke about the construction reasons why we have such a low supply, but the other socioeconomic factors are boomers are living longer and they're a very stubborn generation, let's be real. They want to stay in their nice bungalow until the day they die. They're a weird generation when typically the older people, the retirees, would leave their bungalows, leave their detached home, and opt out for owning a condo in Fort Myers or Arizona where it's warm and not have to deal with the struggles of owning a freehold home. Picking up the leaves, fixing the gutters, replacing the furnace, all the things that go with owning a big home. But those damn boomers are just so stubborn. So we have builders not building because nobody wants to build the houses. And secondly, interest rates are at 40-year highs. So builders, again, aren't building nothing because it's too risky to be buying projects and building things right now when the real estate market really isn't looking so hot at the time of filming this video. Coupled with all the reasons I spoke about Gen Zs and millennials wanting homes but not willing to work for it, but still want those homes. office. Now, the next thing that's going to change the future of housing is remote work. And we're already seeing it now. A lot of jobs are being remote and more are going back to the office. We're going to see this struggle of companies wanting to bring people back to the office after the post-pandemic era. But eventually, dude, we know where this is going. A lot of jobs and more jobs are going to continue to be remote work, and they're going to stay remote work. So this is really interesting because you can still have that big San Francisco job working for a tech company, Google, Meta, Spotify, anywhere, and not have to physically be in San Francisco or Chicago or Boston or New York, all these expensive major metropolitan cities. What we're going to start seeing, and we saw a glimpse of it during the pandemic, is people living in tertiary markets around these big cities or not even living anywhere near their job at all. Maybe they work for a San Francisco company, but they live in Arizona or they live in Florida where prices are much cheaper. So you're making that high income, but living somewhere like maybe Montana or Utah where housing is so dirt cheap. By the way, if y'all want to live in Tennessee, super cheap prices. So get that job for that New York company and live in Tennessee. But anyway, that's going to be a trend for sure. We're going to see how far that goes, how far it gets pushed. But we know in the next 10, 20, 30 years, remote work is going to be incredibly popular and you won't have to physically live in expensive Chicago or New York. And truthfully, who wants to live in those cities anyway? They're way too left-wing and there's way too much crime. Just saying. Now, the next thing we're going to notice over this next decade is we're going to have a nation of renters. That's going to be way more popular. And if we look to Europe, they're about 40 years ahead of us, and it's very common practice that you rent your home in Europe, especially in the major cities, unlike we see in America and Canada, for example. Even people living in Toronto or New York or San Francisco, there's still an enormous amount of home ownership, even in those expensive cities, because our culture really believes in owning your own home. Renters are losers. You never want to rent. You're throwing your money down the toilet. All the stuff that we've been told as millennials and Gen Zs and Gen X, etc., are to never rent. Renting is for losers. You have to own your own home. Well, that tide is just shifting right now, I believe, and over the next decade, it's going to become normal to not own your own home, and it won't be frowned upon like it is in Europe. See, in Europe, people work to live rather than, and in America and Canada, for example, we live to work. We want to grow our careers. We want to chase that American dream and reach financial freedom and build a business and investments. Yeah, in Europe, they have given that up a long time ago because the cost of living is so expensive, and they'd rather focus on being outdoors, hanging out with their friends, going to dinner every single night. I mean, we love to travel Europe. We go every single September for 2 or 3 weeks and live in different cities. And from going there for so many years and spending so much time there, the culture difference is absolutely insane. I mean, it's part of the Western world. You would think it'd be very similar, and it is in a lot of ways. But when it comes to their lifestyle and their investments and chasing the dream, they just don't do it. The pace of life is so much slower. What they value is hanging out with their friends, spending a 2-hour siesta lunch, going out to a restaurant, then going out to a restaurant again for dinner, hanging out with friends, having some drinks, smoking some cigarettes. That is the European ideal lifestyle. And to be honest, it's annoying for me as a North American. I'll be honest. This is going to sound like a typical North American thing to say, but whenever we're there on vacation, the pace is too slow. Everybody's walking around so slow. Oh, it's actually insane just how different it is. And it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. Their lifestyle is probably way better. I'll give it to them. There's something in here with a North American. I was just, hurry up. I got to get to the beach. I'm on vacation. And I'm still like, get out of my way. Oh my God. Like, you're crossing the road so slow. It's just a totally different lifestyle. And I think that's going to start coming more to North America. People are essentially going to be giving up on chasing the dream because it's not even worth it. Why bother? Why kill yourself for nothing? We'll see how that prediction pans out, but that's what I can kind of predict because I can see so many people right now in North America losing faith in the system. Why work so hard? I'm only getting paid $60,000 a year. I'm slaving. I can't even pay my rent. Eventually, people are just going to say, fuck it, and they're just going to give up. Why bother? And they're just going to start having more fun. Now, the next thing we're going to see over the next coming decade, obviously, is more sustainable living structures. Greener houses, better construction, plants on the roof, I don't know, whatever we're going to see. But the most obvious thing that is coming is 15-minute cities. And yeah, maybe it's not the doomsday version from the WEF. 15-minute cities in the sense of everything you're going to need is within a 15-minute radius, which again, in Europe, in the major cities, This is what I actually kind of like about going to Europe. I'm not going to lie. Whenever we stay in an Airbnb, literally everything we need, groceries, bread, clothes, coffees, cafe, everything you need is within a 15-minute radius. You don't have to take transit. You don't need a car. Everything is around you. And I think that plan is going to be coming to North America. You're going to start seeing cities that are built smaller, neighborhoods that have literally everything you need, so you don't need a car if you don't want to. Now, again, this is a super touchy subject and people get super conspiracy over it. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. You guys know I love conspiracies. I got the truth is out there tattooed on my arm. That's how much I love conspiracies. But I don't think really this is a conspiracy. This is just smart planning, smart building for the future and the future lifestyles. But a conspiracy is fun, and it might just be. Now, the next thing we're going to see change over the next decade are interest rates. And here's the thing. They're always changing. That's what they do. They go up, they go down. The government thinks they can control inflation by raising or decreasing rates. That's a topic for another video. They're going to do what they got to do. The bottom line is interest rates are going to go up and down, up and down. That's what they do. So expect volatility and the unexpected. In the near future, they're going to be coming down quite soon. I mean, Jerome Powell has already signaled that they might, most likely, very cryptic, lower rates this June, but we know where this is going. Whether it's September, whether it's October, it doesn't matter. The rates are coming down, and they're going to be coming down quite a bit over the next 1 to 2 years. That is for sure. After that is anybody's guess. There could be a black swan event. There could be a war. Anything could happen to change that trajectory, but we know over the next 1 to 2 years, those babies are coming down. Now, to further expand on my point about how the government can pretend that they can control inflation, which is the central bank's only job, is to control inflation via the interest rates, but that's not exactly how it works. See, Japan for the last 17 years has had zero or recently negative interest rates, and inflation has been incredibly low and housing prices are going down. Wait a second. That's the exact opposite of the narrative that Jerome Powell is saying here in America. See, he's saying when interest rates are low, the housing market skyrockets because lending is cheap. Financing is cheap. People get exuberant. They go and buy houses they probably shouldn't be buying. Inflation goes up. So Jerome Powell increases interest rates to lower demand. This will bring prices down and bring the euphoria down. That's the narrative we've been told in American economics forever. But yet Japan over here is totally breaking that entire narrative. And if you look deeper into it, what's actually happening is interest rates are almost solely controlled by the price of oil. Now, I'm going to talk about this in my next video in great detail, but if you look at every single recession we've had in modern history, interest rates conveniently always follow the price of oil. See, when the price of oil gets high, interest rates are low. And when the oil market crashes, that's when we have an economic recession, and the government has to lower rates to stimulate the economy. But it's always led by the price of oil. Every single time oil crashes from a drastic high, we conveniently have a recession on something else, and that's why the government has to lower rates. Anyway, it's a very interesting thought. Again, my next video will be breaking this down in much greater detail. But something to think about. And last but not least, what's going to happen over the next decade is a lot of change. We can't predict what's going to happen, but we can predict and we can know that there's going to be a lot of change. So what you need to do is to start investing in assets to protect yourself from inflation and the government's doing a bunch of weird, crazy things. But one thing we do know for sure that if you own quality assets like gold, real estate, quality stocks, but my favorite being real estate, it is proven to make a lot of people wealthy if you're buying in the right cities that have economic fundamentals like GDP growth, job growth, and population growth that outpaces the national and provincial or state averages where you're investing. You're almost guaranteed to make a lot of money if you have a long-term horizon, a minimum of a 5-year hold. And that's what I teach all on this channel is how to invest in real estate, how to grow your wealth, because one thing is for sure, the government doesn't care about you. I don't care who you're voting for, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's Donald Trump, one of them's better than the other. It doesn't matter though who they are. One thing is for sure, they're not going to put money into your specific pocket. They can't possibly care about you. You need to care about you. So if you want to find out more about how to invest in real estate and how to grow your wealth, hit that subscribe button and I will see you in the next video.